the spokesperson from Statistics South Africa on the work that is about to be embarked upon, and particularly around the safety issues, around participating. What we heard from the Minister in the Presidency, that those who want to participate through the process online, they still have until the 5th of February to register and make sure that they are able to take part in the census. We'll try and connect with that a little bit later on. Zimbabweans will be heading to the polls in March for the country's by-election. This is set to be the precursor to the 2023 national elections. How will the new kids on the bloc, Citizens Coalition for Change, fare in the upcoming elections? Party President Nelson Chamisa joins us now to unpack their plans to win votes in the upcoming elections. So Chamisa, good evening and thank you very much for your time. I believe it's your birthday. Is it today? Happy birthday.
Well, thank you very much. I'm so excited that I'm growing younger and stronger, and I think I'm looking sharper, isn't it? Thank you.
Explain to us the rationale and your thinking around dumping the MDC brand and coming up with a Citizens Coalition for Change.
Well, thank you very much. Triple C, as we call ourselves, or CCC, Citizens Coalition for Change, is a new kid on the block, a brand new political party based on new values, new principles, and of course a new culture. You know that we have in the past been associated with the past brand, which brand has now been tainted by toxicity and negativity, and also confusion and infiltration occasioned and sponsored by the state in Zimbabwe, by Mr. Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF. So we have said to ourselves, look, we do not want to continue on this path of fighting over names in the courts, legal suits, issues to do with recalls, counter recalls, all the sort of shenanigans and tomfoolery we have seen taking place imposed on us. We said, look, enough is enough on the path of confusion. We now want to be very clear. We now need to be focused. It's a new dawn in Zimbabwe. It's a new dawn in alternative politics in Zimbabwe. So we need to connect the citizens, making sure that the citizens are at the core and center, the front and main of our politics, of our decision-making, of our lawmaking, and of course of our policy-making. And so that is what gave birth to this Citizen Coalition for Change, Triple C, which is actually a citizen-based project, a citizen-based cause driven by citizens after consultation with the people of Zimbabwe.
Yeah. Are you surprised at all about the reaction you're getting, particularly around your slogan and the whole debate about alienating certain tribes and whatnot? Is this just part of the distraction that you expected would come with the launch of this party?
We are a very inclusive national movement, and you'll see that we just launched, we announced, in fact we have not launched, we just announced our existence. And our existence as a new kid on the block has shaken the old and tired, the exhausted of the past and the yesteryear politicians, because we represent the future. And now people are very clear in terms of the choice that is before them. There is a choice between a sunset party, which is ZANU-PF, and a sunrise party, which is ourselves. The rest is obviously in between, but there are clear choices to be made. As ZANU-PF is panicking, they are panicking like a snake. They know that we are a giant rooted in the people, among the people, and they know that we have the support of the people. We defeated them in 2018, by the way. We got over 2 million votes, and we just had about 3 months of campaigning. Now we have enough time to campaign. We are putting all our ducks in a row. We are making sure that we mobilize all our grassroots structures. Every corner of the country is not going to be left. No part is going to be left unturned or untouched. So that has shocked the establishment. But of course, we are not there to threaten them, to make them panic. We are only there to give them a good and a fair run for their money. We want to make sure that there's real competition, and we run them out of town. We run them out of the villages and out of the farms. We are the game in town. We have turned this nation yellow. People are supporting yellow because they know that yellow represents the future. Yellow is the future. Yellow means sunrise, freshness. Yellow means also energy of the young. So we need to galvanize the African energy, the energy of our young people, the energy of our energetic and productive population in the country to move our country forward, to be democratic, to be responsive, to be responsible, but more importantly, to transform our great nation and make sure that we make Zimbabwe great and new.
Yeah. One of the debates that are ongoing, particularly around the young energy that you're talking about, that is required to be the force of change in Zimbabwe, is that some of them, for example, are here in South Africa, some of them are in other parts of the world, and they are really not interested in coming back to Zimbabwe, in participating, for example, in things like voting and having a say and having a voice. What is your vision and what is your strategy around getting that voice active within the politics in Zimbabwe?
Well, I must say that those who are in the diaspora in South Africa, Botswana, Zambia, or any other country are not in the diaspora on account of choice or luxury. It's because of the push factors. The push factors being the broken governance system in the country, dysfunctional economy, total breakdown in infrastructure, and of course, a country that is generally inhabitable for the people of Zimbabwe. It has been a torrid time. And of course, running to South Africa is a way of finding opportunity, finding a way of eking out a living, and of course, sustaining their families. So we must understand that this is a humanitarian challenge. It is a serious challenge which is occasioned by the political meltdown and the political crisis in Zimbabwe, the governance crisis, on account of broken systems, but also on account of rigged elections, contested elections, illegitimacy of the current government, because it is a contested state. It did not derive its mandate from the people. It derived its mandate from the organs of the state, the courts included. You know that our issue was in the Constitutional Court. Of course, unfortunately, the courts did not agree with us, but the people voted for us overwhelmingly. Mr. Mnangagwa knows in the heart of his heart that he did not win the election. And those in ZANU-PF know that they don't have the mandate and confidence of the people of Zimbabwe, the citizens. So we have bigger issues and a bigger issue around governance, and that issue has to be fixed and resolved. Those in the diaspora are willing to come and look back home and do what has to be done. But they also need Africa and indeed SADC to help them help ourselves by making sure that we fix the political situation that's broken. We resolve the reforms that are supposed to be around the election. We've just begun the issue of voter registration. Guess what? None of those who are just above 18 or turned 18 have their IDs or national identity documents. Why? Because the government, deemed them not fit and not good for them, because they know that they'll vote them out. So we have bottlenecks within our country where the right to vote is actually not an available right, where we have issues to do with the security of the vote is something that is still contestable. The credibility of the voters' vote is something that has to be dealt with. Those are the issues we are focusing on. But to tell you the truth, Zimbabweans are willing to fix their country. Those in South Africa, those in the diaspora, we communicate with them. In fact, we have now formed a platform called Diasporans for Change. It is a massive platform. They are willing to do what has to be done. There's a lot of excitement, enthusiasm. They've all embraced the new. They've embraced the yellow. And of course, the language now is hello, yellow. Hello, Zimbabwe. It's good morning in Zimbabwe. The sun shall shine and will shine again in Zimbabwe. And I can tell you that we are going to be the proud icon and the proud jewel of our continent and indeed of our region once we fix our politics. We have everything else except leadership, and that is what we have to fix.
Nelson Chamisa, President for Citizens Coalition for Change, stays with us here on In Focus. We'll hear more from him when we continue next. Back with you tonight here on In Focus, Newzroom Afrika, Channel 405. The Citizens Coalition for Change, President Nelson Chamisa, with a big task, really, of attracting 6 million if you are to really be successful in the 2023 elections. How do you plan to do that? I mean, is there a strategy that you are planning to adopt? Are you planning to use social media? We see that yellow has been largely painted on social media with some kind of energy and enthusiasm. What is your strategy for attracting that 6 million, and you think it's possible?
Well, very possible. I mean, you remember that in 2018 we got 2.2 million votes, genuine votes. And of course, Mr. Mnangagwa's votes are not as genuine. That is common cause. And that is known by him, by all of us, by all Zimbabweans. What we need to fix now, going forward, is to make sure that we reach out to all the other corners of Zimbabwe and also energize the diaspora, as I have already indicated. So we have a robust and very resolute strategy to make sure that we reach out to those who have to be reached. 6 million is quite a realizable and achievable target. In fact, we have done so well. The voter registration has just begun. We have a lot of people who are not active, who are not interested in voting. We have told them that the only way, the only door to the future is voting. Citizens have to vote so that we invoke the power of the ballot so that we preserve the integrity and dignity of the voice of Zimbabweans in terms of determining who should lead and govern them.
What is your position on sanctions? I mean, you're saying, well, if you want us to vote for you, denounce sanctions first. I see a whole lot of debate going on about that.
Well, we have no business to be hired guns for ZANU-PF. The issue of sanctions is an issue that is bilateral between ZANU-PF and those who imposed whatever restrictive measures are there. And we've said to ZANU-PF, if you want us to help you do your bidding, to help cleanse you, because you are stinking to the world, if you want us to give you a deodorant to sort of deal with your bad odor in governance, in breakdown of rule of law, in human rights abuses, please talk to us. Let's have one platform. Let's dialogue as Zimbabwe so that we have a handshake at the national level. That way, we'll be able then to have a handshake and building of bridges with the international community. But to the extent that we are not agreed on the fundamentals, we can't be asked to sing the chorus of ZANU-PF. You know, it's a ZANU-PF issue. They are the ones who have issues with those whom they have issues with. As far as we are concerned, it's none of our issue. Our issue is good governance. Our issue is credible elections. Our issue is a return to rule of law. Our issue is respecting of the dignity and sanctity of the citizen. Our issue is to make sure that the citizen is restored in dignity, authority, responsibility, but more importantly, in their ability to also have a normal life and decency. Just look at how Zimbabweans are harassed, embarrassed as they cross the river Limpopo, crocodile infested. So you can imagine they are running away from a crocodile infested territory, across a crocodile-infested river, into very difficult and very unknown circumstances in South Africa, in Zambia, in the neighboring countries, because options are very limited within our country. We need to fix that. How do we fix it? Let's deal with the governance. Is leadership stupid? Is politics stupid? Once we fix it, I can tell you, Zimbabwe is going to be the shining star of our continent.
Speaking of crossing the crocodile river, what is your take as the opposition to the position of South Africa in the discontinuation of the Zimbabwe special permit? It's not only South Africa, other countries as well on the continent that have done that. How should that particular process be approached? Because South Africa is saying, well, there are laws in South Africa. It's the rule of law, and these are laws that are South African, and there are people who feel like they want to take advantage of the South African situation.
Well, I would have a two-pronged approach to that. The first prong being the prong to do with the challenges of the Berlin Conference 1884 colonial boundaries. You know, we as Africans must rethink the colonial boundaries, must rethink the borders we have. We must talk of an Africa that is united, because the African heart is one, the African mind is one, and the African dream and aspiration is one. So why should we have these borders imposed on us by colonialism, imposed on us by externals, by foreigners, in Berlin for that matter, in Germany? Why can't we have a post-Berlin consensus to really say, do we need these borders? If we don't need them, how do we go forward with one currency, with making sure that we have a solid infrastructure for the continent. We are also able to build one economy and build one market, and of course have one visa for the entire of the African continent. But those are debates that have to be engaged and embarked upon by the entire African population. And I think it's something that we are ready to embark upon at the appropriate time. And we really hope and pray that this would be an agenda that our leaders assist with, those in government and those of us in the alternative. And I must say, there's always this marginalization of those perceived to be in the opposition because they are taken to be, not at the center of governance. But we must begin within the context of SADC, AU, to embrace the alternative, to embrace progressive opposition political parties so that they also play a role. Because a government is not a government if it does not have an opposition. It takes two to tango. A coin has two sides, a government side and the alternative government side. Some would want to call it opposition, but in other advanced jurisdictions, you now have the minority government and the majority government. That's how we must be doing things so that there's no acrimony and disharmony between those leading and not leading. But of course, the second issue is to also respect, having accepted that there's this territorial limitation and territorial integrity in the context of the colonial boundaries. We must respect the jurisdiction of South Africa to make laws that advance their own interests, national interests. We respect them. But we also say, as you respect your national interest considerations, the citizens' considerations, also pay a particular eye and a particular consideration on your neighbors. I mean, you can't enjoy when your neighbor's house is on fire. That's not African. It's un-African not to help an African brother or sister who is running away from danger. We have always, as a people, helped each other. During the apartheid regime, you know that many of our colleagues in South Africa were assisted in Zimbabwe, in Zambia, in Botswana. That is how it should be. And of course, when we have danger in Zimbabwe, it should not be abnormal for Zimbabweans to also seek refuge in our neighboring countries. Because geography is not by choice. It's by design, divine design. That's how God created us. We are neighbors not because of choice or an election. We are neighbors because God desired us to be neighbors. And we must therefore be able to also have that African brotherhood, African sisterhood, African solidarity as we fix the problems. But the more permanent solution for South Africa is to help Zimbabweans fix their own backyard. How do we do that? Let's have credible elections.
Yeah.
Let's superintend and scaffold processes in Zimbabwe to make sure that we have dialogue to resolve agreed frameworks of electoral reforms, constitutional reforms, political reforms, and a charted course and charted trajectory that is agreed upon by all Zimbabweans. And we've always said, please, South Africa, help us to help ourselves. President Ramaphosa, the ANC government, help us to fix our own issues. EFF, as the opposition, GA and other political parties, please help Zimbabweans to also deal with their own challenges back home.
That's the next thing that I wanted to ask you. I mean, there are a number of them who are giving you feedback online, who are very hopeful, saying it's the sunrise, you're doing the right thing, and definitely change is on the horizon. They choose to be hopeful and optimistic. But there are others who are saying, well, it's just a name change, really. Ultimately, even as the Citizens Coalition for Change, you're going to be faced with the same challenges. There's nothing really that's going to be different come 2023 as far as the outcome is concerned. So by that meaning that Nelson Chamisa will come again in 2023 and say, well, the elections were rigged. How do we ensure that we don't have that kind of an outcome come 2023 and start doing that work right now as we build up to 2023's elections?
Well, I can tell you that there's not going to be Chamisa or the CCC, Citizen Coalition for Change, crying foul. Once bitten, twice shy. We've learned our lessons. We have seen where we need to make sure that our ducks are in a row. We are on all fours on all the critical issues, strategy-wise, but also more importantly, structure-wise and infrastructure-wise. So we have been putting a lot of effort into it. We've also put a lot of watts in energy. into it. I can tell you that we leave no stone unturned, and we will leave no turn unstoned, in a very peaceful manner. Everything has to be done in a proper manner, and we're not going to repeat the mistakes, missteps, omissions, and commissions of the past that have necessitated and occasioned the challenges that we have faced. Going forward, we are very clear that we have to make sure that we're polling agents at every polling station. So we are mobilizing support, resource, and capacity to make sure that we cover all the polling stations. But more fundamentally, we are also seeking reforms and pushing for reforms, and citizens are going to demand reforms. That's going to be one of the key agenda items for this year, to make sure that we achieve electoral reforms that are agreed upon. We can't go into an election where we are not agreed upon on the fundamental rules, where the referee, ZEC, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission's credibility is jeopardized, tarnished, and tainted, and where we feel that at times they're captured. That becomes a problem. We need a ZEC that's credible, a ZEC that is a referee and an umpire who is not choosing to join another side and throw the whistle away, as they have done in the past, where they have pitched camp with ZANU-PF. We don't need that. We are in a contest, and that contest is between political parties. Our military, our police officers, our state institutions, ZEC included as an independent body, are supposed just to play a very professional, independent, non-partisan role to make sure that there is a conveyancing of the will of the people. The people must choose who they want to lead, so that the electorate, not the selectorate, determine and dictate who should be in the seat of government and who should be in the seat that is alternative to government.
Nelson Chamisa, President of CCC, Citizens Coalition for Change. Appreciate you, and thank you for your time tonight here on In Focus.